Ceedee Lamb.
Missing, at least the version we've come to know and love. Will he ever return to form in 2024? Should you trade him away? Should you buy him if you don't own him? The Fantasy Football Show, the Emergency Ceedee Lamb edition, begins right now. What do you do if you own Ceedee Lamb? Do you acquire him if you don't own him? The truth is, we don't know what to expect. The only thing I can tell you with certainty that you can expect is inconsistency. It will be a roller coaster ride. Is there a world where this guy does produce the top 5 wide receiver numbers that he's produced in the past? Sure. He could have a 180-yard game, 150-yard game, a touchdown and 90 yards, 2 touchdowns and 45 yards. He could have any of those games under Cooper Rush against a normal defense, against a decent defense, not maybe the top defense in the National Football League. And who knows if Cooper Rush even remains in the lineup in the coming weeks. We don't even know what the hell's in store for this team. Aside from being able to guarantee inconsistency, no one knows what to expect. So you got to be somewhat careful when you're dealing with trading him away and not getting enough in return and losing your shirt in the deal. There's a happy medium of getting rid of him and getting something that's going to help your team advance and win, because that's the goal, right? What can you do to mitigate the risk involved in trying to hang on to Lamb when you can maybe swap him out for a player that is not yet popped off yet? Let me give you the best example I can. Chase Brown. I'm not saying you'd even trade Ceedee Lamb straight up for Chase Brown. Some of you might. I might. But what I'm trying to convey is that Chase Brown 2 weeks ago isn't the Chase Brown of week number 11 on. The Chase Brown that we know right now, the guy we predicted from the beginning.
Let him cook.
That guy, that Chase Brown that we predicted to become what he's become, before he became Chase Brown, the accepted version of Chase Brown, you could have got him and another player for Ceedee Lamb. You could have got a DK Metcalf and Chase Brown for Ceedee Lamb walking into week number 10, but you didn't. So that's why you're here right now, trying to figure out what in the hell to do. Your only goal and objective is to try and identify the next player that's going to go upward that is currently ranked really low. Buy low, sell high. You're trying to buy low on a player that becomes the next version of Chase Brown. Maybe it's ETN. ETN may be getting his job back. Bigsby getting banged up in the week 10 contest, and now ETN might have the ability to become a top 5 to 10 running back again. So maybe ETN is not your straight up 1-for-1 trade, but he's a accoutrement, a piece of the trade, an accessory, if you will, in the 2-for-1 trade. You give up Lamb, you're trying to get 2 players. Now, here are a handful of players that I will recommend trying to take stabs at. Lamb for Gibbs, you might get it straight up. Lamb for Hall, you might get it straight up. The Hall owner and Gibbs owner and the hate groups dedicated to trying to tear these 2 guys down is crazy to me. Gibbs is still a top 5-6 running back in almost every scoring format. Hall is still top 6-7 in most every scoring format. But these guys are attainable. And dare I say, if you can't do it 1-for-1, you might be able to give up something extra, a smaller piece to get this 2. You send Lamb and a smaller piece away for Hall and Gibbs, or do some sort of 2-for-2. Puka Nacua, highly doubt you get it, but you might be able to do some sort of 2-for-2 trade. Maybe you got a quarterback you're not using like Kyler, and you got Jalen Hurts or something like that, and you can give them another piece of their puzzle, and they'll go ahead and downgrade into Lamb, even though we don't know who's going to be better. Cooper Kupp, same thing. Neighbors is intriguing because Neighbors is, if you look a couple weeks back, the kind of player you could get now with a Chase Brown of 2 or 3 weeks ago. So if you can find your Chase Brown of 2 or 3 weeks ago right now, and you couple that player with Neighbors, you're getting yourself a home run potential situation in return if Neighbors does increase in value. Now Neighbors, I'm going to have a video on what do you do with Neighbors, because it's the same exact situation. Horrible quarterback play, immense talent, awful situation. But Neighbors is somebody that if you said, Smitty, I can't get more than Neighbors, but I can get Neighbors, should I do it? I might tell you to do it. They're both awful situations, though. They truly are. But I kind of get the sense that Lamb, and this is me being a little bit, I guess you could say judgmental here, of the two characters here. I love Lamb. I love Ceedee Lamb, but he is a diva. He's very versed in the NFL. He's very versed in his own space. This guy, Neighbors, is still trying to prove himself. If I had to make a prediction on which player takes off the end of the season, week 15, they're kind of banged up. There's nothing to play for either one of these guys. Cowboys, the Giants, they're both awful. There's nothing to play for in week 14, 15, 16, 17. Which player is more likely to say, you know what, I'm banged up, let me save my body? The older player, the veteran, the guy that's savvy, not the young guy still trying to prove himself. Then again, you got to ask yourself this question: is the likelihood of a hospital ball putting either one of these guys on the pine for 2 or 3 weeks or the rest of the season, what's more likely? Who's more likely to get a hospital ball? Probably even Steven. Maybe Neighbors more likely to get a hospital ball fed to him. I don't know. He got another one fed to him in week 10. Player hit him right in the hamstring while he was in the air trying to grab a hospital ball. But I would say if you want to mix things up, I don't mind going after Neighbors. Now, Nico, I don't know what the value is going to be on Nico. I think owners sitting out yet another week is going to either be a good or a bad thing in terms of trying to acquire him. They might be tired of the situation, unsure of what's going on. As soon as news breaks that he's for sure good to go this next contest, then all of a sudden, you have Nico Collins probably untouchable because the owners waited so long. But if they're in limbo right now about the news, you might be able to swap this out. If you can't, maybe a creative 2 for 2, or you give up something small with Lamb in order to make the swap. But these are the ways to get out of Ceedee Lamb. And the inverse look at this is how you would go get him, in a sense. So if I'm sitting there trying to go get Ceedee Lamb, and I'm saying to myself, what players could I surrender? I mean, Tracy is a perfect player that is playing great. Chuba Hubbard is a great player that some might say I'd rather not trade Chuba for Lamb, to be honest with you, Smitty. And I'd be okay with that in terms of what are we talking about in terms of the roster build? If he's the running back 2 on a team, I can understand not wanting to do this. If you're struggling to start Chuba Hubbard every single week because you got Breece Hall, Gibbs, and Chuba Hubbard, and you can only start 2 running backs or something like that, then this becomes an expendable piece. And you might even have to throw in something small, a wide receiver that's playing well, whatever. But these are 2 players that make a lot of sense in terms of trading away. Lamb quite honestly, there's endless possibilities and opportunities to make a trade, even if it was a Najee Harris and you're trading away a single RB that is a position of need for so many people. You might be able to do some sort of risky, so to speak, trade into Lamb by giving up a running back that you have a Tracy or Chuba Hubbard that can relieve Najee in your lineup. So everything's context. If you have the surplus at a certain position, that's probably where you're going to go. The thing I see most often right now, surplus wise on teams, is people have Otten they picked up and they still have Hawkinson. This is probably the most common thing I see: Hawkinson and Otten, or Laporta. Having 2 of these tight ends on your roster, I see that so much. It's the most common thing. You get rid of one of them. I love Laporta. I'm banking on Laporta. Laporta's a top 5 tight end going forward. So I'll give up any one of these guys. If you own 2 of these 3 tight ends, and then you could throw in another player, and I don't know, that player could be anybody from a wide receiver that's playing very, very well. Let's call it a Mooney. I've seen people do trades like this. Someone's going to say Mooney and Otten are getting you Lamb. I've seen worse happen this week already. So don't make assumptions that someone's not desperate and willing to do something crazy. Another combination of players that I could see happening, I've seen Zay Flowers be given away but also be sold high. So if you could get rid of Flowers, I've seen a player like Kareem Hunt and a lot of people thinking that he's not on borrowed time. I've seen people get rid of James Conner, who I like a lot. You don't necessarily need to make this move, Conner and a tight end. I could understand if you wanted to keep Conner, if you needed RBs. I've seen Ramondre Stevenson getting more volume. You could maybe even do something along those lines. I've seen people get rid of let's see here. Adams is a very questionable player. Adams and one of these tight ends. And remember that one of these tight ends is a player that you're wavering on each week of which tight end to put in. So if you have two of them, it makes a lot of sense. I get that it's not an ideal world to go acquire him. It's not an ideal world to hold him or decide to hold him, but it is a tough topic that needed its own show. And that's what we do here on the Fantasy Football Show. If you got a dilemma relating to Ceedee Lamb that I didn't help you with already, a different version of what we're talking about, drop it below. Don't forget I'm on Patreon. The Patreon is the best place to be, in my opinion. It's a live chat, $10 a month. It's patreon.com/the Fantasy Football Show. Link in the description. And it's remarkable. It's the entire live YouTube chat community, essentially, in a live chat environment that goes off the show onto a platform, Patreon, where we have 10 live chat rooms, and I do live audio streams on there, not daily, but almost. And they're replayable, so if you miss it, you can listen to it later. Don't forget Underdog, promo code Smitty. They'll match your first deposit up to 50%. So if you drop $50, they'll give you $25. If you drop the minimum of $10, they'll give you $5. If you drop $2,000, they'll give you $1,000, all the way up to $1,000. But the minimum's only $10. Play Underdog week number 11. Draft a team for week 11, knowing all that you know now in case your season's over, or if you just want more skin in the game and you're even winning and having a great year, then you can still play Underdog. And then the pick'ems are fantastic. I do a lot of pick'ems and give you my favorite picks for the week. Don't forget the news show every single Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. By the way, I'm live every single Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Also live additionally whenever news breaks, and then live most graveyard streams at midnight. You just go live at midnight. We're crazy here. But as I was saying, do the hires and lowers on Underdog. I drop those usually on Friday and Saturday shows and Sunday morning right into kickoff. So enjoy those. I'll see you all later. Appreciate you.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com studios, it's the Fantasy Football Show.